Hey, how's it going, guys? Figured I'd come back and make a community support video. I feel like it's been a minute since I've done one of these. So I have two YouTubers I'm going to make a video for today. Jerno's Comics and Pop Culture's 500 subscriber contest. Hopefully I'm in time. If not, no big deal, obviously. But I think he said he extended it for his finals he was doing in college, and I figured I'd try to get an entry in. But first, I discovered a new YouTube channel. His name's Flipnout. I discovered him through the Doom 143 within the last couple weeks or so. Actually, it may have been only a couple days. I don't know. Time flies, time slows down. Who knows? But so I'm going to go ahead and do an entry video for those two. So I'm going to start with Flipping Out. He is celebrating 100 subscribers, and what he wants me to do is pick 5 books I would take to an island. Wow, I probably spent way too much time trying to figure out 5 books, so I just kind of picked 5. Obviously, I could pick another 5 and another 5 and another 5, but I'm like, I'm just going to stick with these. But there was one book in particular I wanted to start with that would probably end up on my list almost every single time. And that is Why the Last Man, number 60. This may be my favorite single individual comic ever created. Yeah, once again, this is issue 60, and to get this ending and to get everything out of it, you have to read everything prior to that. So the ending in this is very earned. And it may be the finest ending to a comic run of all time. Like I said, I don't want to overhype it, but I really, really enjoyed this series. And this final book was just, I mean, there's cherries on top and all that good stuff, but this surpasses that to me. The ending is just so good for Why the Last Man. More or less, I mean, he's an old man in a straitjacket. He's, at that point, the civilization and Why the Last Man, they're starting to get on their feet again. It's not exactly post-apocalyptic anymore, but, the world seems to be getting on its feet again. But as York Brown, you kind of have to read this issue to find out. He's been through so much, obviously, in the other 59 issues. And for this last issue, there's quite a bit of a time jump. To where you see him from issue 59. There's a tragedy that happens in that one to issue 60. So it's very interesting to see where the character ends up from 59 to issue 60 and how he ends up there. And it's not this book isn't exactly about what happened to the world at the end of Why the Last Man. It's just about Yorick reflecting on his experiences with all of his friends and his monkey too, of course. Which, if you read the other 59 issues and then read this and it doesn't get some sort of reaction out of you, rather, a laugh or a little bit of sadness or a little bit of joy by the end of it, there's like a liberating last panel in this. I don't know what's wrong with you. Like, this book has it all. I don't want to talk too much more about it, because if you guys are still reading it out there or haven't read it, find a way to read this. I cannot recommend Why the Last Man enough. And this ending definitely lived up to hype for me. Usually when a book's really good, the ending fizzles out a little bit, and it's a little disappointing and bittersweet when a good book ends. Brian K. Vaughan, he had this planned out from the beginning. You could tell it was very well crafted. And actually, I got this book signed by the artist Pia Guerra. So very happy to have that. She signed it. Happy trails. So can't recommend this book enough. Like I said, I don't want to overhype it, but it might be my favorite individual issue of a comic. Just, because we all have our favorite runs, which usually like 3 to 5 to 6 issues, and overall it's a good story or run. But for the content they crammed into one issue, just one issue, it's not even, I think it might be a double size, but beyond that, I mean, A+ effort right here. This is so good. So there's book 1. I'll try not to ramble on about the other 4 choices I picked. The next one, I wouldn't pick this exact variant. It's just one I had handy. I got the actual first printing book on my wall, and I have the Absolute edition of it, but All-Star Superman number 1 by Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely. To me, I mean, I've collected Superman since day one. The first book I ever bought was Superman 75. But for me, All-Star Superman is the definitive Superman run for me. It doesn't get any better than that. So I just had to pick All-Star Superman #1. This is the Sears variant. It's the only one I had left in one of my short boxes because everything else is either on the wall or I just give it. Like usually if I get multiple copies of this, I give them away. I want other people to read and enjoy All-Star Superman. So don't know what else I can say about All-Star Superman that has been said already. Check this book out. Get a better version than the free Sears one, but nonetheless, phenomenal read. If I ever do another giveaway again, have All-Star Supermans, this book or, the other printings will definitely be in there. Maybe I'll throw this one in anyway. All right, next up, Fantastic Four 588. Actually, just recently got this signed by Mark Brooks. He did the last little panel there in this book. It's basically a different story. And the reason I picked this book is for that different story. It's called Uncles. If you guys couldn't tell by the cover, this is, well, it's supposed to be the death of the Human Torch, but obviously he's not really dead. But the Fantastic Four and the whole Richards family doesn't know that. So there's a very emotional. That's one of the most emotional stories I've ever read at the end of this, where it's Franklin Richards and Spider-Man. They just kind of meet on a rooftop. Like Franklin's just on top of the Baxter Building grieving, and Spider-Man swings by. And they actually, it didn't really hit me until I was like, why is it called Uncles? And then they have this whole conversation about Uncle Ben and Johnny Storm, and it's just an absolutely excellent little sub story, and the whole book's actually pretty good too. It has the whole FF. They were doing that whole sub team at the time with the whole Valerie and Franklin Richards team of experts and smart people. But absolutely worth it just for the little last couple panels of this. It's very emotional. Mark Brooks said he actually teared up reading the script before drawing it, so it's a very good last little story there. Next up, got Teen Titans 33. This is the final appearance of Connor Kent before he gets killed off in Infinite Crisis 6. I don't think, there probably was an instance, but I don't think before this Nightwing and Connor Kent Superboy ever teamed up. So this is a really cool book, I thought. It's like Jeff Johns just trying to, squeeze that last team up in before they killed off a character in Infinite Crisis. Because for a long time, in 2005, everybody thought Nightwing was going to get killed off. Dan DiDio, I guess, was not a huge fan of the Nightwing character, and everyone was speculating Infinite Crisis was going to be the end of Nightwing, and instead it was the end of Connor Kent Superboy for a very long time. He just decided he had to kill off one of these two characters, so this was kind of like the book building up to Infinite Crisis 6. So luckily, they gave us one last Superboy. Actually, I think there's the Teen Titans Annual is, Wonder Girl, Cassian, and Superboy have their moment in that. And in this moment, this is the one where Superboy, he finally decides to get off his butt and come back because he had been sidelined because Lex Luthor took control of him because he's a clone of both Clark Kent and Lex Luthor. And somehow Lex Luthor got mind control of Superboy, so he was very apprehensive about trying to do anything in the field again. So he kind of just sat at the Kent farm home and did nothing. And he finally saw what was going on the TV with Superboy Prime and the rest of what's going on in Infinite Crisis. So he finally got off his butt and started fighting. And then the only person left at that point who was not sidelined from Infinite Crisis was Nightwing. So it's basically like a Brave and the Bold story without the Brave and the Bold imprint running. Actually, I got this one signed by Tony Daniel, Todd Knock, and Jeff Johns. So I don't know why I didn't have this in a miler. I don't even think I had this in its own bag. So I made sure this went in its own bag. It's a great story. So check that one out. And then number 5, I just picked kind of a random X-Men. It's hard to pick one X-Men. We all know that. But for today, because I haven't seen anyone really talk about this storyline, I picked a new X-Men 150. I could have picked a lot of other ones from this Grant Morrison. I guess this is the second Grant Morrison book in this a lot. I guess I really like that guy. But anyway, this new X-Men 150. This was basically the final appearance of Jean Grey Phoenix for, up until the Resurrection recently. Which is crazy to think about. I didn't realize she was gone for that, because I think this is printed in maybe 2003. So I guess 2000. She was gone for 15 years after this, which is crazy. I'm sure she made an off appearance or two, because I think there was Phoenix In song and all that, and there was all kinds of weird things that happened after the Grant Morrison run, where for whatever reason it didn't seem like Marvel liked the Grant Morrison run, so they nerfed a few things that happened in this. But for me, what happens in this happens in this. which I'll get to the story. So basically, Magneto was posing as Zorn in the Xavier Institute, and he was kind of just sitting there waiting for the time to strike. And, you know, what happened in the previous storyline is, like, Phantom X, Wolverine, and Cyclops were off fighting, I think it was called Weapon Plus in space. And that whole thing, basically, they're on a satellite that blew up, and Phoenix had to go save them. I think Xavier and Beast were off doing their own thing, and someone tried to assassinate the White Queen, and that was pretty much the whole team in the book. So at the Xavier Institute, that only left the new students and Zorn/Magneto, so he picked the perfect time to strike. I'll talk more about Magneto in a second, but more or less in this one, Magneto takes control of Manhattan. It's up to the new X-Men to regroup and figure out how to conquer him. So like I said, it's hard to pick just one X-Men. I rolled across this one first and forgot, you know, about how, like, wow, this really was one of the last Phoenix Jean Grey stories for a while, until some people count the new Jean Grey that came in the Bendis book. I'm like, I don't really. This is my Jean Grey right here. Phil Jimenez killed it on the art in this book too. It's an awesome cover. So I'll stop there for a second. So those are the 5 books I'd take with me on a desert island. So for Jerno's contest, he had a couple of requirements. The first is talk about a hero or villain you like right now. Magneto. So that's why I wanted to kind of pause and transition in the next contest, because when I first, you know, heard about it, I'm like, oh, I've already talked about 2 heroes I really like, and Connor Kent, Superboy, and Green Lantern. I didn't want to be repetitive and have the same answer. But I guess one of my favorite heroes is Jean Grey, so I wanted to pick this book because more or less it ends up with, you know, Jean Grey and Magneto in the final conflict. So anyway, in the story, a little bit of spoiler I guess a lot of bit of spoiler territory here. Magneto has taken over Manhattan. He's trying to rechristen it New Genosha. So when Jean takes the team back to New York, Magneto's just crazy at this point. Like, he's having to wear the Zorn helmet because Cyclops blows up the Magneto helmet. So he's just going around like a crazy lunatic, confusing all the new kids that he has manipulated through the Xavier Institute throughout the entire Grant Morrison run. And one of the other highlights in this issue, I will say real quick, is when Beak shows up. I don't know if you guys remember the character Beak. He's more like, his mutant power more or less is he's like a half man, half bird. So sounds pretty boring, but he's a pretty cool character. He just shows up with a a metal baseball bat trying to take on Magneto, because Magneto has his whole family. Like, there's a new version of Angel that's a female that he has hostage with her children, which are with Beak. So Beak, you know, he's all beat up, and he just shows up to New York ready to fight Magneto with a bat. Magneto basically slaps at him, but Beak, you know, he's fighting for his family basically. And then Phantom X shows up, saves Beak, and everybody else. That's the new X-Men. I don't want to call them the New Mutants, because the New Mutants were separate at the time. But anyway, back to Jean and Magneto. The final conflict in this is, you know, it just shows that Magneto will show or do anything for the mutant cause. You know, he didn't want to hurt any of the mutants that he was teaching at the Xavier Institute. And here, actually, I'll show this one because it has Magneto on it. He didn't want to hurt any of the students he was teaching, but at the same time, he was trying to kind of force push them into his direction of, you know, Homo superior is greater than any type of other human. But unfortunately, you know, Jean had to be the one to, you know, she had the Phoenix powers, and she was the one to confront Magneto. And Magneto at that time was, you know, he was so powerful because he was more or less saving up his mutant power, and he ended up killing Jean Grey. And then that gave him the distraction for Wolverine to stab Magneto in the back. So very, very interesting ending to that. But I always just found Magneto extremely complex, because he could go really good or he could go really bad based on, you know, what's going on with mutant kind at the time. So absolutely have to show some love for Magneto, and show a little bit of hate too, just because you can't trust him. So probably the most diverse bad guy in all of comics. Like, usually everybody either leans all one way or the other. Magneto has always been in that gray area. So absolutely always found Magneto very complex and interesting. The next point I believe he wanted me to cover, who is your favorite 70s or 80s artist? I have been on a big Neil Adams kick lately, so I had to show my Batman 232. As you guys see in my previous videos, I've gotten some key Green Lantern issues from him. I got the first appearance of Jon Stewart at the CGC as we speak right now, as well as the Speedy Drug issue, and then I just got the Batman 234, the first appearance of Two-Face yesterday. Actually, I showed up my previous video, so had to make an excuse to show my 232 finally, so got it in this nice top loader. So absolutely love all of Neal Adams' stuff. Ever since I found this book at a antique shop for $3, and have absolutely been in love with Neal Adams art ever since. So absolutely love this book. And then the last thing he wanted me to discuss, it says, talk about something that you enjoy or a big part of you. Unfortunately, I'm a really boring person. I just, I work and sleep and read comics, basically. Sometimes I play a video game or two. I decided to take this little quick time to talk about wrestling. So I actually got my Macho Man shirt on for this video. Wrestling is one of my very first memories, just watching it on TV. Going out with my family to what I think we went to Market Square Arena way back when in Indianapolis, Indiana, my first show ever. It was like a dark match type of show, or a house show, if you will, I guess. And the main event for that was Macho Man Randy Savage versus Roddy Piper. So just being able to see those two of my favorites of all time, saying that I saw them in a match, it's pretty awesome to me. So like I said, if you ever ask me like, hey, how long have you been watching wrestling for? I was like, I have no idea. It's like one of my very first memories is growing up. Also went to WrestleMania 8, so everyone's like, oh, whatever, wrestling's fake or whatever. So it's like, I'll never stop watching wrestling, basically. Especially the 90s stuff. I stopped watching. I wouldn't stop watching. I took a break in 94 and 95 because the product was garbage, but 96 and 97 were the best years in wrestling history, in my opinion, and that made me a lifer, basically. So, like I said, sorry if that's not the best answer. I'm pretty boring. I don't play music or anything. But yeah, take that with all you. I got the Lex Luger icon. Thought about changing it to something up comic book, but like I said, that Luger icon puts a smile on my face, and I always get some fun reactions in the chats and stuff. Every time Great Legend goes through his whole spiel about Lex Luger, and it just puts a huge smile on my face, so I'll keep it for as long as I can. But other than that, hopefully you guys enjoyed these contest entries. I won't hold you any longer, so I guess leave a thumb, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and congratulations on the subs, guys, and thank you for all my subscribers, by the way. I think I'm about ready to cross 160, so that's just mind-blowing to me. So thank you guys for all the comments in the chat, all the subs. I very much appreciate it, so have a good night.